Hi, everybody. I'm here with Angelo Pancho, who is a TA enablement expert. He's no stranger to this recruiter enablement YouTube channel. He's been on a couple of times. And this is part of a short series that we're going to be doing over the next week or so. We're going to be talking today about social recruiting, social media recruiting. I think it is a really important element of recruiter enablement, or I think the two things are tied really closely together, or talent enablement, because it's about hiring managers as well. Let's get into it. Angelo, quick introduction for people that don't know you.
All right, very good. Thanks, Adam. Always good to be here. Angelo Pancho, I've been in the recruiting industry since late 90s and all over the map as far as staffing industries, corporate recruiting, et cetera. Most recently, I was with the number one industrial automation company in the world and oversaw the talent enablement functions. And so that entailed talent enablement, hiring manager enablement, social recruiting, lots of training, et cetera. So good to be here. Thank you.
Great. Okay. Tell us everything that you think. I'm a TA leader, and social recruiting, something we just need to get our arms around, need to do it a lot better. What do we need to be thinking about?
Right. So there's a lot of different platforms to use right now. Of course, obviously LinkedIn is the top one, but then it really depends on which region you're at and where you are in the world, because LinkedIn is not going to be everywhere, right? And so, for example, like in Asia Pacific, China, they don't use, of course, they have very limited usage of LinkedIn. And so their predominant platform is WeChat. So you really have to focus on what is heavy in that particular market. But in some respects, I mean, in all respects, the LinkedIn, of course, obviously is a dominant platform for social networking. But then, of course, there's all other ones such as the Instagrams, the Facebooks, et cetera. And then when it comes to different platforms as far as communication, I know, like, for example, in Latin America, they use WhatsApp heavily over there. And so you really have to be mindful and just understand like what works for their particular country and region.
Mm. Okay, so let's stick with that, which is like channels. Um, would it be useful to have some sort of central knowledge base for um, here's the regions, here's the types of jobs, and here's the recommended social networks according to that sort of matrix of region and job? Because you're right, absolutely, for like geographies, but also I think if you're recruiting factory workers, maybe LinkedIn's not the right choice, and maybe something like Instagram or Facebook or something is a better choice,
Right.
or even Twitter. Or I refuse to call it X. So would it be useful to have some sort of a central knowledge hub for this?
Absolutely, 100%. And that's exactly what we created was a centralized platform. And within this platform, we listed every platform that works per country and per region. And so, of course, there's a global part of it, and then it's broken down by region. So, Asia Pacific, Latin America, EMEA, right? Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And so, within those regions, every country has a different platform or job board, if you will, that works for them. And even when it comes to different layers. So, I'll take Latin America, for example. We had a manufacturing plant in Mexico or Mexico, and that type of recruitment, those type of talent are not on LinkedIn. They're on totally different platform. They're on Facebook, right? And so Facebook
Mm.
groups we had to create and a different Facebook page specifically for that particular part of the country and also industry wise as well. There's a great, huge following within that particular Facebook group that they had or that we had. And it was really effective when it came to hiring individuals specifically for manufacturing. And that's just one example. And of course, that can vary from country to country. But yes, it's always important to have it listed in a centralized location so people do not get confused. But at the same time, people are also consistent with the digital assets that they are posting on these particular platforms. You want to make sure that the digital assets are in line with the company's guidelines and marketing guidelines and what the marketing creates as well.
Okay, let's talk about that a bit further, guidelines, because if I'm an industrial automation company, just as an example, um, it's probably quite easy for me to have the right type of content for posting on a professional network like a LinkedIn. Um, it's maybe less easy for me to, I mean, I might be totally wrong, to maybe less natural for me to have the type of content which is going to resonate well on TikTok, for example. Would that be right? And like, what are the challenges with thinking about the different types of content in line with the type of company that yours is?
Right. So, with the guidelines, of course, the marketing department, the employer branding department, they really have to set the expectations, right? And also, they have to set the expectation as what channels and media platforms can we use or
Yeah,
you're able to use, because just because like a TikTok is out there, that doesn't mean the company can use it.
yeah,
So the company I was just with, we couldn't use TikTok because of confidentiality reasons. And so, but we could use Instagram and Facebook, and even smaller social media platforms, if you will. We were able to do that. But as long as what we post is consistent with the actual, I guess, the branding guidelines, right? The colors, the features, the size of the logo. Is it an updated logo or is it an older logo, right? You want to make sure you use the updated one. And so, yeah, it's really hard to maintain, especially for a large organization. But hey, at least we were definitely trying hard to be consistent across the board, and that's going to be the key thing: is make sure that the content you're posting is very consistent. Going back over to the Facebook page that we had for the manufacturing plant in Mexico, we noticed that what they're posting on the Facebook group was not in line as far as the colors, the images, right? The branding was not in line with what the marketing department put out, and
yeah.
so we had to change that. So we had to do like a social recruiting audit as far as the digital assets, and that's going to be an ongoing thing. Is auditing and training the team members and updating the guidelines. What's fresh content? What can we use and what can what can we and what we cannot use.
I guess there's another element of that you might want to include if you're building a sort of knowledge hub for this, and that is like with each of these social networks, what are the actual like op options? I mean, like for example, um, WhatsApp, which is also like probably the most used um, uh, social network or communication channel in Europe, I would think as well. Um, it's much harder to do certain things compared to on, say, Facebook or LinkedIn. It's sort of a bit more restricted in terms of what you
Right.
can do. So I think including in that hub would be probably a good thing to have. Yeah, what are the available options and opportunities on the different social networks, and also what's paid and what's free, and maybe some
Yes.
tips around like how to get good views with the right types of people.
Right, exactly. So we did a lot of training as far as posting strategies, right? How to post. Let's just say, for example, keep it simple with LinkedIn, right? Just because there's one of your postings are on LinkedIn, a job post. First off, we have to train our staff and also the leaders what's the difference between a post and a job post, because they're two different
Yeah.
things, right? A
Mm.
job post obviously is the requirements, descriptions, etc. A post is something that you actually just express on social media platforms, right? So there's a big difference, but I know a lot of people got that confused, and so uh, we really have to share what the differences or educate what the difference is between that. And then when it comes to the actual posting, there's different strategies, right? The length of a post, how
Yeah.
you should structure the amount of characters per line, right? Should you put white spaces in between each line? Yes, you should, right? How many emojis should you put? What type of hashtags are relevant, right? All those things. It's like another world, right? When you're creating an actual post, because now we as talent advisors, even hiring managers, we become content creators.
Yes.
And that's a whole nother field here, is how to format a post. And we can't expect a hiring manager to know how to post. That's just not what they do. But now the trend is changing, right? And so our TA team members and also people leaders and hiring managers, they have to educate themselves on how they should be posting and what will
Mm.
be effective, where to post as well. Even on
Hmm.
LinkedIn, are you posting into specialized groups, right?
Yes.
Are you posting a specific message within an in-mail, and how are you crafting that in-mail, right? And so there's different nuances and strategies and tips and tactics as to how you should be posting online. But yes, the algorithm is something that we're training our team members. What you post and how you repost and how you comment and how you react, that's gonna, what's gonna make your post go viral, right? And so those little elements, those little features, it goes a long ways. Don't be fooled by just a thumbs up. When somebody clicks on the thumbs up, it changes the algorithm, right? When somebody comments, you want to make sure you reply back to that comment, because that's also going to increase the exposure and make that post go viral. Because what it does to the LinkedIn engine or any type of search engine, whether it's LinkedIn or Facebook, etc., they look at the amount of clicks, they look at the amount of interaction and engagements in order for them to increase the exposure of that post.
Yeah, so that's how they determine that actually that looks popular. We're going to share it with other people we think are going to be interested in this.
Absolutely. Dwell time as well. How long the post is, how long people stay on the actual post, that is another factor when it comes to the algorithm.
Yeah. Okay. I think it's a minefield, but if we can create some kind of good guidelines and like this is how to do it, that's going to really help people just to get to doing it. And I think my instinct is that hiring managers are probably going to be behind recruiters on this, but I don't think a lot of recruiters are particularly expert around this either, to be perfectly honest.
You're right. You're right. And that's where the constant training sessions come in, the mentoring, the coaching, the one-on-ones, what's working, what's not, show some good examples as to a post and how effective it is. But also at the same time, we also have best practices, right? What do's and don'ts of a post, right? Of course, don't post you can definitely post your own opinion, just make sure it's not representative of the company, right?
Yeah.
Just little things like that. I mean, there's a huge list that we had as far as what you should be posting, as far as like what's relevant to the business and relevant to this position, and also of course what you should not, right? If you're posting cat photos on LinkedIn, right? I mean, that's not going to do very much. Or if you can be if you're going to have an argument online with a competitor, right, you shouldn't be doing that, right? Because that's gonna put a bad taste in people's mouth, right? And so there's etiquette, do's and don'ts.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to tell you something that I thought was really great, and it's a few years ago now, but a friend of mine was a talent acquisition manager for a company in Northampton, and what they'd established in England, and what they'd established was that for a certain type of job within the company, the persona was part-time mums, basically. Now, I don't know what the inclusion aspect of targeting part-time mums really is and the ethics on that. But here's what they did. What they realized was people in their 40s and early 50s um, were who lived in Northampton almost certainly spent their late teenage years and their 20s in a nightclub which was called Veronica's in Northampton. They set up a Facebook group called Memories of Veronica's. And then they just got like lots of people of the right type of age who were probably there to come and join, put in their photos, put in their memories. And then they were able to like one in every four posts that went in there, it was something about working at that company and job opportunities and things like that. And it became a very, I don't think the club was called Veronica's. I can't remember, but it was something like that. And it was just a really creative way of establishing how do I bring this kind of persona, lots of people who fit this persona into the one environment, and then we'll have the ability to, communicate with them about, the key message, which is in the background, which is we'd like you to come and work at our company. But I thought that was quite a creative way of like building an audience.
Absolutely. That's what you want to create, right? You want to create a following, a follower, right? A follower base, because that's where
Yeah.
the true networking comes in,
Yeah.
right? You have something in common. And so, I mean, hey, the way I look at it, of course, this is social recruiting. Really, it's social networking, right? So those two words, social, you're socializing, network, and you're networking, right? And so obviously that's why it's important to be active on these social media platforms, because the gone are the days when you just post it on a newspaper, right? That's how it might work. But now
Yes.
everything's online, right? You just do a simple post and just the power of it, it'll just go viral.
Yeah, okay. Just one last thing about it. I mean, I guess that like DMs is an important part of this as well, right?
Yeah.
You want to get a, so what do you recommend? Do you recommend templates? Do you recommend like working collaboratively to establish which message really gets the most return and that type of thing?
Well, we did have templates, and you can certainly create templates if it's a high volume type of role.
Yeah,
There's nothing like being authentic though, right? There's nothing like being a
yeah,
say, hey, Adam, hey, Adam, I have this opportunity here. I know that we're connected here. Do you have a few minutes to speak, right? Just keep it really simple. And of course, that's what I train all of our TA team members is your first, if it's on InMail, right? If it's LinkedIn InMail, you want to make sure that that first engagement is really simple, right?
yeah,
You don't want to go long. You don't want to say stuff like, hey, fantastic opportunity, or, don't sound cheesy because
yeah,
human beings are smart, right? We're intelligent, and so we can read right through that. But if you just come in like just a genuine post at first, that's gonna be the best way to reach out to somebody. And of course, obviously, it's going to increase your response rate on LinkedIn as well.
yeah. I agree. So I think you don't want your in-mails or your DMs, you don't want them to look like marketing. You want them to look like the
Right.
person's been like one-to-one targeted because
Absolutely.
of something specific to them, make them feel like they're special.
Right. Exactly. I like to give the example. Like, let's just say, for example, you're at a cafe or a coffee shop, you're standing in line, and you strike up a conversation with the person in front of you, right? I mean, you're not going to say, "Hey, we have a great opportunity." You're just going to try to get to know that person first, right? And so, you strike up just a natural conversation. That's the best way to do it, whether it's in person or even online.
Angela, we've talked a fair bit today about like hiring managers in this whole context as well. Next time, we're going to go into a bit more depth around like how do we enable our hiring managers to be great recruiters and ambassadors for the company. So
Love it. Yep.
good to see you. I'll catch up with you soon.
Right, Adam. Take care.